So close enough. Today is the day after the longest day of the year, and probably the difference is imperceptible. And I wanted to begin by sharing a little poem from Dante. It's funny because just for recreational purposes, I'm reading Inferno by Dan Brown. That's the other side of Dante. The love of God, unutterable and perfect, flows into a pure soul, the way that light rushes into a transparent object. The more love that it finds, the more it gives itself. So that as we grow clear and open, the more complete the joy of heaven is. The more souls who resonate together, the greater the intensity of their love. And mirror-like, each soul reflects the other. Isn't that beautiful? So you can see these revelations are not new. He lived from 1265 to 1321. So it is the day after the longest day of the year, and there's something about that besides having more daylight hours, is specifically that we have a much greater chance of being out in that daylight, simply because there's more of it. So the odds are in our favor that we'll get out into the light of day, even in the busy lives that we now lead. And while weather may not seem like it has anything to do with enlightenment, it's a great metaphor, for one thing, this increased exposure to the light, and a great excuse to talk about the power of the light of truth, the light of love. To do what? To shift our perspective, to help us remember, to show us things that are possible that we've either forgotten or didn't know were there. And to, in turn, shift our experience. There's another thing about this time of year that is really prevalent. Besides the fact that it is just generally the opposite of the kind of introspection and hibernation associated with winter, even in Florida, what we have is this climate of recreation. We have this sort of air teeming with the energy of all the children who are out of school for the summer. And all of the teachers who are breathing a little sigh of relief as well. I know we've had a few in our sacred circles. And they've just relaxed into this opportunity to read and study and reflect together in a really unstructured way that's just about connection. In one of them, I remember we went through her summer holiday with her a couple years, maybe it was just last summer. And it was just wonderful to watch her melt and let go and just re-examine everything. So there's this invitation, there's this opportunity, there's even a trend. There's something in the air that says, let go. Let your hair down. Do something different. So there's that. And there's this interesting thing that comes with this idea that we have a greater likelihood of being exposed to the light of truth because the days are long and bright. And because we're in this climate of recreation. Is that this letting go avails us of other possibilities. This letting go makes us available to the infinite, which is always there, right? And yet, when we're caught up in shorter days and busier, fuller ones, we may have, and most likely have, dampened down, reduced our exposure to light, to possibility, to opportunity, to other ways of seeing and being. We may have narrowed it down to a to-do list which started with things we really love and value and became things to simply get done and check off of that list. So there's this opportunity to let go. And for those of us who are predominantly introverted, well, some of them aren't here today, right? For those of us who are predominantly introverted, this is a risky time to get out and play, to let go of some part of your safe and comfortable routine, to step out of your groove. You may have to climb out of it. It depends on how deep it is, right? How many seminars and workshops do we go where they invite us to cross our terror barrier, to get out of our comfort zone, to let go? We pay them to make us do this. Well, we have an opportunity in this time of year to recognize that, guess what? Lots of people are letting go. Lots of people. Now, we have children who are not concerned about this at all. Yay, school's out, no problem. We have teachers who are relieved to take a break. We have parents who may have a new problem on their hands. Everything is changing. So you could say that it's already happening, and why not get on board? Now, for some of us, to get out and play and to have it almost legislated, definitely popular, maybe mandated, but really what's going on is a wonderful thing. Because you have more people to play with than you usually do, right? More people are getting out and spending time out there. What we're talking about today is actually that part of you that really wants out. That part of you that has suffered a lack of attention, perhaps, energy that grows and nourishes and feeds that part of you because of that busyness, because of that reduced exposure to the light of day. You will know this part of you because it envies those people who are out playing. You will know this part of you because it longs to be one of them. You will know this part of you because it has crazy dreams to go on trips or do things that you thought weren't possible. You know this part of you like that kid who used to come over and ask if you could come out to play. You remember who that was in your life? And you'd be like, oh, please, can I? And it was usually, the condition was like, finish your vegetables or do the dishes or promise to be home by X, But I remember, there was always somebody at the door just waiting to come out and play. And there's really part of that same thing within each of us. One of the things that I love about this teaching and other work that I've done in my life is that I have returned to being the precocious, energetic, crazily inspired, multi-active person that I was when I was in first and second grade. And I had been talked out of being quite so enthusiastic and unrealistic. We all have been. There's nothing tragic or unusual about that. We were taught to be more reasonable. We were taught to be more in line. There's work to do. There are priorities to think about. And to come back to this realization that it's healthy to play. There are even doctors who prescribe play. They say you must get a hobby. It's a matter of life and death that you learn how to relax and let go. Right? So here we are. The summer is a perfect time to do this, to take it on. The love of God, unutterable and perfect, flows into a pure soul, the way that light rushes into a transparent object. We really are, each one of us, exactly that. We're already pure. We're already transparent. Anything that muddies us or makes us less than clear is something that is a matter of choice and that we have the power and the opportunity to let go of. And you know, we could even just do it for 21 days. We could do it for 1 month. Whether you're doing some kind of a 21-day practice to shift an old habit or create a new one or both. Kind of like Lent. For a period of time, and let's just say for the summer, before you go back to whatever your usual routine is with other people at, sometime in August or September. What if? What if your schedule and your lifestyle hasn't changed one iota, but you want to ride on this wave? You could do that, couldn't you? And if that were so, what might it look like to bust out of your comfort zone? What might it look like to get into neutral so that you could look again at old possibilities and look at new ones and get clear? There are two things that come to mind when I look at all this. One is that recreation means recreation. So when you recreate, you're recreating yourself. You're availing yourself of being created again. Can you see how that makes sense? To let go, to play, to do something different, to release the familiar and jump into the risky unfamiliar. And avail yourself of new possibilities. Would recreate you? Of course. So there's your case for play. In case anybody was telling you that there isn't one. The other thing, something interesting that herbalists do, they introduce what's called a turnaround before they administer a treatment. The turnaround neutralizes the body chemistry first. Whatever's going on will first bring you into neutral. Then we will address that with the treatment that follows. Whether you're driving a manual transmission or an automatic, every automobile passes briefly through neutral before it moves into a different gear. And absolutely when it changes direction. The tides have a period where they are slack between the completion of the incoming tide and the beginning of an outgoing tide. And no doubt there are countless other examples of the value of getting into neutral before you make a change. So you see, this is another part of this case for playing. This case for doing something different, even just for a little while, because that's what's going on. There's the power of that energy in the air. There's the power of other people doing it. There's the power of the examples that are being set everywhere to support you. So what would it look like? Do you know what it would look like for you to step out of your comfort zone? Is there one thing that you might stop doing for a little while? I'm working on one myself, and it's shifting my experience greatly. I went home, I shared this a couple weeks ago, I went home from a doctor's visit with a prescription to give up dairy again. Only because I fessed up. I just, made an appointment and I told her something so she'd tell me something so I could just go do it. So I'm working with this. I have a whole life that has revolved around exactly how my coffee drinks are made. And they involve dairy products. But Rick knows more than anyone, and many of you do too, that I spend a lot of time coughing. So, working on this change. It's a special little change. I wasn't willing to tell anybody about it at first, but now I'm remembering what it's like to travel through the world asking for soy and almond. It's not so bad. And shifting everything. Because I'm letting go of something that I absolutely refuse to address or change. And as a result, there was so much of my life that was tied up in that refusal. So do you have something like that? You don't have to tell. It's best if you don't. It's best if you don't. Make a secret pact with yourself that you're going to do one thing differently for this period that we call summertime. Now, what would you do to get into neutral? Do you do something like walk on a beach, don't take your phone, turn it off, go somewhere and don't tell anyone? Do you ride a bike? Is it a yoga class or meditation? Is it a trashy novel? What is it? What is it that allows you to get into neutral? It doesn't matter what it is, but that you have something that does that for you. Are there old possibilities that are sort of rising to the surface like that kid at the door that still wants to play? Saying, what about this? Are they still there? Because if they are abiding. They're constant. There's something to them because they're still there. And can you imagine that other things might come to mind once you get in this place of neutrality and release at least one thing that you have been doing so automatically that half of you during daylight hours is still unconscious? How might you recreate? What might you do to recreate yourself? Do you know what that is? I bet you do. So you could say that this time of year is like an invitation and a permission slip. An invitation and a permission slip to do those things. Now remember that when we avail ourselves of infinite possibility, that is the only way that infinite possibility can be available to us. It's already present. We hold the key. We're the only ones who can open that door. And the more love that it finds with our transparent souls, the more it gives itself, so that as we grow clear and open, the more complete the joy of heaven is. So there are ways that work for us. And we will find that in some cases, those are things that are unique to who we are. They're very special. Excuse me. They're sacred. They're ours alone. And there are other things that we will find other people are doing that we're attracted to. Now, some of them I just admire, like the kite boarders. I think, wow, that must be fun. Not for me. But maybe it is for you. Please hold. I still have a belief about something in here. So, I also know that that works really well for me. So the question is then, why not say yes to that metaphorical kid at the door that's really you, that wants to go out and play? Why not say yes to that part of you that already knows what would do it? Why not say yes to that part of you that knows, you know what, whatever that thing is, it'll get done. I have made a habit of believing that it's so important that I can't set it aside. And there's a part of me that knows that's not true. Have you ever whistled while you wash the dishes and they still got clean? Have you ever sung a happy tune while you sweep the floor and it still got swept? Consider that spirit and take it with you. So what I'd like to do is just end by repeating this poem in its entirety. And ask you to just remember going to read it. This is my plan B. Rick's going to read this for us. Okay? And we will go somewhere with different air conditioning.
Amen.
Okay, amen. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
See the face of God. The love of God, unutterable and perfect, flows into a pure soul the way that light rushes into a transparent object. The more love that it finds, the more it gives itself. So that as we grow clear and open, the more complete the joy of heaven is. The more souls who resonate together, the greater the intensity of their love. And mirror-like, each soul reflects the other.
Thank you, Rick.
I invite you to go play. You know you have permission. We got an invitation, and that kid inside